We have a powerful combination of guests today. We have John Perkins, who is a New York Times bestselling author and also one of the world's foremost authorities on shamanism. And he's also the founder and board member of Dream Change and the Pachamama Alliance. And he is going to be sharing his perspective as the former chief economist of a major international consulting firm where he advised World Bank, United Nations, IMF, et cetera, in various countries. And in addition to that, we have Llyn Roberts, who is also an award-winning author. We're going to be talking about her book, Shapeshifting and Higher Consciousness. I wanted to get a sense of, have you actually, among your travels, met corporations where you think these leaders really do focus on economic growth, which is, caring about the social well-being, the environmental well-being, as well as being profitable, good corporations? So that's where I wanted to start the conversation.
Well, I'm glad because, I happen to think that we're going through a consciousness revolution, perhaps the biggest revolution in the history of humanity, bigger than the agricultural or industrial revolution. I think people are really waking up across the planet. And we also know that corporations run the planet today. It's not governments, it's not the United States government, it's not the Chinese government, it's the big corporations that really call the shots on all the major issues. And they've done a lousy job taking care of the environment, but they're learning, I think, and we consumers are learning. Things are changing. I travel around the world speaking at a lot of different conventions and summits. I recently spoke to 4,000 executives from corporations at a conference in Istanbul, and on and on. And I find everywhere I go that the corporate executives are waking up and things are changing. Mm-hmm. The problem is that any executive in a high position of a big corporation realizes that if he or she loses 1% of market share, he or she will probably lose their job.
Right.
And the next person who takes over that job will only be concerned with market share. So, the real onus rests on us, the consumer, to let these corporations know that we're only going to support the ones, we're going to buy from the ones and invest in the ones that are looking out for the future, that are about creating an environmentally sustainable, socially just, spiritually fulfilling world. And we've got to let these corporations know, because I think an awful lot of executives want to do that. They're just not quite sure how without losing their jobs.
Well, when you talk about corporate executives becoming more conscious and in a consciousness revolution, what are you seeing when you talk to the CEOs? What are they saying that gives you that sense?
Well, it's particularly prevalent among the younger ones. I lecture a lot of MBA programs, business schools. Mm-hmm. And 10 years ago, when I asked students, business school students, what their goals in life were, and incidentally, Lynn was with me at a number of these meetings. These young people would say that they were only interested in making money and getting more power. I don't hear that anymore. Everybody's aware. You don't have to tell college students or high school students anymore that we've got a problem. You don't have to tell them the glaciers are melting. They know that. 10 years ago, you have to convince them.
Right.
You don't have to convince them. You don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing now is that these young people who are going to be the leaders of corporations and governments are very concerned. They want to have kids. They want their kids to grow up in a good world, a sustainable world, a socially just world. And I hear this incidentally in China and Latin America and the Middle East and Europe and not just in the United States, but everywhere. Something really is happening, and the question is it happening quick enough?
Yeah, Lynn, tell us about what you've found too, because it sounds like you've been as part of these lectures as well as business students. Do you see a shift as well?
Yeah, I agree with that. And my focus these days is more on nature itself and people's relationship to nature. And just within that realm, it's almost like I liken it to, when humanity believed that the earth was flat and then discovered that it wasn't. I feel like that's the kind of revolution we're really going through now. And people are incredibly receptive. And as John said, especially the young people, it's really heartening,
Yeah. But I think the thing that I have, I'm actually imagining myself in my former days when I was sitting in a corporation, trying to do good work and caring about doing something that was meaningful and creating something that was really great. And I'm wondering how, if we were to talk to the CEOs out there who may not be at your consciousness or not may have not been the MBAs that are sitting in your program, what would be the messages that you'd really want to give them and to say, hey, listen, here's the reason why you have to care, or why we really want you to care? What do you say to those CEOs?
I tell them that what we've really created now is a global failure. There's no question. There's so many statistics that point to this. 85 individuals have more wealth than half the world's population. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 5% of us live in the United States, and we consume 30% of the world's resources. That's not a model. Half the world's starving. And, China cannot repeat what we've done.
Right.
They're trying, they can't. And so we've created a failure, and it's really what we've created is what I call a death economy. It's a global economy that's based on militarization to a large degree. 21% of the U.S. budget goes to killing people or preventing their own people from being killed. And death to the earth, ravaging, destroying the resources. Lynn lives near some very, very precious forests on the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State, and they're being torn down, they're being clear-cut. And we're seeing this all over the world. So we've created this economy that's based on death, it's based on destruction. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, we have to move out of that. And
right.
We have to move into a life economy. And think of the potential here. We could have a full employment economy and people cleaning up pollution. There's pollution everywhere. All the oceans are polluted, all the lakes are polluted. Clean it up. There's a huge economy there. Helping starving people grow food more efficiently and feed themselves, grow it and distribute it and store it more efficiently. New technologies for transportation, communications, energy, banking, everything. There's such an opportunity here. And so I tell these corporate executives, look, take your businesses in this direction. Be like the Medici were back in the medieval times.
Yeah.
When they understood that the world wasn't flat,
yeah.
and they understood that the city-states were out. We're moving into nation states. So it's not enough to have a bank in Florence. You have to have one in Geneva, too, in Rome. And we're at a time like that now where I tell corporate executives, you got to understand that if you want your grandchildren to honor you, to respect what you did, then you've got to buy into this life economy. That's where we're moving. We've got to create a life economy, not a death economy.
Mm-hmm. So what are the responses? I mean, I know that one of the things that you said initially is the resistance that you get is, well, I have to, my number one person that I have to serve is this shareholder. So if I actually can't show shareholder results, I can't survive here. So what do you say to them?
I think, a good example is Mark Parker, who's the president of Nike. And mm-hmm. Mark has said that he wants to leave a green legacy, but he's afraid that if he goes too far, if he loses a little bit of market share, Phil Knight will get rid of him and the board.
Yeah.
And so basically what he's looking for is emails, I tell consumers, when I'm talking to consumers, send lots of emails. Say, I love Nike products, or I love, whatever.
Your sustainability efforts or something.
Yeah, I love your products, but I'm not going to buy them until you pay your laborers in Indonesia a fair living wage or whatever. I mean, it's organizing consumer movements, and that's what these people want. They want to be able to take emails to their board of directors and say, hey, these are our customers.
Yes.
We better understand what they're looking for. So, it's very important for us as consumers not only to consume consciously, but to let the corporations know why we're not buying from them or why we are buying from them.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. I actually worked as a president of our neighborhood association, and we have a very active neighborhood association. And the city council would say, the Seattle City Council would say, please just write letters. Get everyone in your community to write letters, because that is the proof that we need to show, no, people care about this. Because it's really probably, if I go buy Nike shoes because they actually have a sustainable policy, they don't really know if I'm buying the Nike shoes because I saw that slick ad or because they actually have sustainable policies. And so until I actually write the letter, they wouldn't know, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
And it's so easy these days to organize consumer movements, with the internet, with Facebook, with Twitter.
Yeah.
It's so easy for people to do that.
Yeah.
People realize how easy it is and how powerful it is.
Yeah, so we take the example of the gentleman from Nike. Aside from, so he wants to do it, but yet he doesn't actually have any tangible proof that he can say this is actually correlated to consumer demand. This actually matters. Does that mean that we have to be smarter about the data that we're gathering? Because maybe, in fact, consumers are buying. I go to Whole Foods over QFC, which are two local grocery stores, because I do care, but QFC doesn't know that I don't go because I don't really feel like they really think carefully about the thing. No offense, QFC. But you know what I mean? They don't know that. But how would they know that aside from looking at Whole Foods numbers and looking at their own numbers, which you're fine.
You need to send them emails.
Yeah.
And Facebook, and I don't know. Their CEOs know what emails are saying. They don't read every email, but they get matrices every month saying what kind of emails are coming in, what people are saying.
Yeah. We actually become mindful and conscious when we're creating those things, so that they are created from a place, if not like a fear economy, and come from a life economy. I'm using John's term. How do you do that? How do you actually, when you're creating the things that you're creating, how do you come from that place?
I'm really concerned with what connects people to their bodies, what connects people to the real living earth around them, whether they're in a city or not. And it's particularly challenging when we're in a city because, there can be a felt sense of severe disconnection from the earth, and depending which city you're in, of course. So it's real important just to, recognize that we're in a state of separation, and what is it that's going to connect us as much as possible. And we're all on computers. We're using computers now. I actually have a plant set up behind mine, so when I'm looking at that camera, I'm actually looking through to the plant. And for me, those are very important, very small things to do. And in cities, I think I heard John say that, to remember that, buildings, everything is made out of the earth. The iPhones, ultimately, as artificial as we get, everything ultimately does come from the earth. And to remember that. And there are, simple practices that you can bring in on a daily basis to help you remember. And it slows your pace down a little bit, because I feel like this is one of the culprits also of our kind of being on this runaway train of how we live on this planet, is that we're moving so quickly, and all of our communicational devices allow that and support that. And that's a really beautiful thing, because we have information available to us that we didn't before. It's pretty profound what we can access. On the other hand, we're still kind of caught in that informational mode that we need more and more and more information. And really, I feel what we need at this point is we have all the mind information that we can get. What we need is a full embodiment and a full relationship, to each other, and to, how we move through our day, and to the world around us.
Okay, John, I have that same question for you. Here's what I'm imagining. If I'm developing the iPhone, I'm thinking about how do I, and both of you actually about shapeshifting. Why wouldn't I shapeshift into the iPhone?
Let's get everybody to shapeshift into these things. Yeah, let's shapeshift into the computer right now. Yeah. We're talking this way.
Okay.
Let's shapeshift into this gadget that we're using that's performing miracles and bringing us all together around the world right now.
Let me feel this out. Well, just close your eyes for a moment and take a few nice deep breaths. And imagine your iPhone, and imagine that you could kind of shrink yourself up small enough so you could walk around your iPhone. Suppose it was sitting on a table or on the floor, and you could imagine just walking around it and looking at it from all angles. Looking at how it's made, looking at the color, understanding how it connects you. And as you're walking around your iPhone, see if you can detect or recognize a small, like a little crack or a portal or some kind of door or window where in your small size that you could actually enter this iPhone. So take a moment. And when you found this little crack or entry, allow yourself as this miniature you to slip through that crack into that iPhone. And as you do, as you step inside, start to look around, notice where your feet are. What are your feet touching? What's the ground surface? And what's all around you? What do you see? What is this iPhone made of? And imagine as you're doing that, you can actually get a sense of what all of these circuits, all of these connecting points within that iPhone, what they're connected to, and where they come from. Take a moment just to get a sense of that. Kind of like a webbing that goes far out to other places on the earth in many ways, where the physical components actually come from and what also the iPhone connects you with. And take a moment now to ask the spirit of your iPhone to share with you, if it had a higher purpose, what would that be? If it could really bring a deeper sense of wholeness and connection, and even an earth connection to people on this planet, because that's one of our main places of disconnection is with the earth, and that impacts everything. So if your iPhone, if the spirit of your iPhone had a higher purpose, what would that be, and how would you experience and interpret that? Take a moment, let the spirit of your iPhone speak to you. And of course, you can do this further on your own, but now it's time to thank the spirit of your iPhone and to look around again where you are and to make your way back out through that crack or door or opening or window. And come out into the space separate from your iPhone so you can see it. And you will make a transition back now to this time and space, allowing your physical body to become large again, taking a few nice deep breaths, coming fully back.
Lovely. That was very lovely. What happened when I went through that experience? So when I went through that experience, what I found was that I actually imagined I went into the phone, I went into the portal where the sound connection went through, the internet connection, one of those openings, and then I was small, and then I expanded into just, like almost like when you see those maps, networking maps of connectivity, in the internet, it's just like a grid. And as I looked more closely into the grid, it was the web of life. Oh. And I would have never thought, somehow doing that exercise for me helped me realize something that I would never have thought of the internet that iPhone being a surrogate for the web of life. And then when I asked that iPhone, what is your purpose? It said to connect all sentient beings. And I thought, well, that's not what I thought. I think when you think of a product like the iPhone as the possibility of connecting all sentient beings, that's a huge thing. And what happened for you?
Well, it was beautiful, and it was a really beautiful journey. Thank you, Lynn. And I kind of like what you experienced. I felt the power of this telephone, the power of this whole network to bring consciousness around the world. It's happening. People are waking up, and a large part of it is because of the technologies that we have today, through the iPhone, through texting, through Facebook, etc. And I was recalling how many, many years ago, a woman shaman, high in the Andes, a Quechua-speaking shaman lady, told me, she said, we shamans are all connected by this web. It's like a great big spider's web. And if I pull on it here in the Andes, then a shaman in Africa or wherever can feel me pulling on it. And we're all connected. And she said, and this was maybe 40 years ago, she said, I think during your lifetime, we're going to see this web manifest in a more physical aspect. And we certainly are. For the first time in human history, everybody on this planet has the capability of communicating with everyone else. Technically, not everybody has access to the technology right now, but it's there for everybody. We're deep in the Amazon, high in the Himalayas, places where 5 years ago they said we'll never have telephones because the lines won't reach us. Now they have satellite cell phones. it's amazing. I go into the Amazon a lot, very deep, and we can have satellite cell phones in there now. It's just incredible. So this web exists now on a very real basis for everyone, not just for shamans.
That's fascinating that she predicted.
The other thing I think about this, it's interesting that I think sometimes what we create externally, we have these devices now that can connect us all over the world like a web of light. I think it's also kind of a physical representation of what we're capable internally of, that we all have telepathic gifts. We can connect with people all over the world without these devices. And so I kind of look at it that way sometimes also. This is kind of, a sign of where we can go with our spiritual development and what's possible for us as human beings, that we may have forgotten. And that we certainly see, John and I have seen, with indigenous shamanic people. The people in the Andes are telepathically communicating with the people, the tribal people in the Amazon, and people in Siberia that I worked with are visiting the Amazon as balls of light, So I see these connections that we're making in all these physical devices.
Oh, wow, that's huge. Wow.
Mirror of what we're capable of as human beings. Maybe we need to see it externally in the physical first, and then remember that that's what we can do,
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's remarkable that this technology really does have the potential for helping us totally understand this deep interconnectedness, and we have to recognize this technology also has the potential for doing some very dangerous things and opposite things. So it's our job to make sure that we shapeshift these technologies into ways where they're very transformative and positive ways. And I think, as I said earlier, that if we could bring this into the schools more, the kind of journey that Lynn just took us on, think of it, if every first grade and third grade teacher did that. And kids are really into this. I take my grandson on meditation journeys, and what I will do is we'll sit someplace and I'll say, let's just both listen to the sounds, and then afterwards we'll compare what we heard, and it's fascinating. He'll say things like, well, I heard a man walking a dog, and I said, how do you know it was a man walking a dog? And he said, well, I can hear him talking to the dog, and I can hear the dog's collar rattling, and I knew it was a dog, and then he's taken this to his first grade class and shared that with them. We got the whole first grade class to meditate, listening to sounds. Young people are just really into this stuff, and I think with their fascination with iPhone, do that journey that Lynn just did with all of us on the iPhone, how powerful that would be.
And so there's, we can focus on our products and what's, what's going into our children's hands and what we wear on our feet. On the other hand, there's, another push that we really need to make at this point to get out, to kind of put those products down and take our shoes off and step outside. Even if we live in a city, we have city parks and we have a backyard. We may even just have, a little patch of grass that's 8 feet by 10 feet. But it's really important to make those real tangible connections.
Okay. John, would you be willing to step us through a meditation, maybe one that you did with your grandson? Because I think it's an excellent idea, which is, what I heard you just say, it's about connecting. Yes, it's about taking the people who are designing these things and focusing on maybe a slightly different pivot than what they're thinking about. And also raising our kids, because in some ways that's probably our future. Our kids are the ones that are going to be figuring out the next world for us. So John, could you lead us through the meditation that you led your grandson through?
Just for a moment, on your out breath, just feel your consciousness going out to whatever is around you. If you're in a skyscraper in New York City, and feel that skyscraper and the city. If you're in a forest, feel the forest, whatever it is. Just on your out breath, feel your consciousness going out to whatever it is around you. And on your in breath, just feel your connection to whatever that is. Just take a moment to feel really present with whatever it is that's around you. Breathing out your consciousness, the connection, and breathing in the consciousness of all that's around you. The spirit of the walls, the spirit of the forest, the spirit of the animals, the spirit of whatever it is that's around you. just let it come in. Realize how interconnected you are to everything that's around you and touching you. And now allow your consciousness to come back into your own physical being and spiritual being, but hold that consciousness with you as you move through the rest of the day and life, of feeling that connection around you and taking time every now and then to just sit or stand in a place or lie down in a place and allow yourself to feel how connected you are to the earth, the floor, the walls, the chair, whatever it is that you're sitting on or lying on or standing on, and all that's around you. Allow yourself to do this periodically. And now just become fully present, open your eyes, and be back in the present of this program.
So Lynn, what happened for you when you went through that?
Very beautiful, very simple, and sometimes I find the most simple things the most powerful, just a deep feeling of connection and rootedness and that everything is sacred.
Lovely. I felt very cocooned and protected and love, and that everything is love.
Nice.
This seems like a kumbaya circle, but it is when it comes right down to it. It's these really simple things that I think we forget about day in, day out. But they're so critical to I think what brings meaning to life, right?
Yeah. And I think those spaces really open us to magic. This is one thing we learned from indigenous people, that our mundane world, as John took us through on that meditation, is interwoven. It's inseparable from the fabric of sacredness and spirit. And when we start attuning in these ways, just these simple ways of being fully present and connected with everything, we really open those portals to magic. And I see this in nature in particular. And again, even in cities, we have birds living at our department stores, and there are flowers in the flower boxes, and there's, the sky and the breezes and the ants on the sidewalk. And, really starting to fine tune to the life all around us is so powerful. I was sitting in meditation with a cedar tree by the river today, and I did this sound thing where I listened to everything very intently, like John's grandson, and I thought I heard a hummingbird at a distance. So I kind of went through those layers of hearing, so I could really pick up on it, and just made a communication with a hummingbird. Well, within 20 minutes, it came closer and closer, and it was literally 4 inches from my face.
Wow.
So we talk about the web of life, the web of light. When we're fully present, as John just very beautifully helped us move to that point, then we're kind of touching those light threads, that webbing, and there's a reverberation, and life responds. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. John, what normally happens for you when if you're in an urban environment and you're navigating through life, how does it feel for you when you're in that moment of being present and mindful?
Well, I do that often, and it's always different. It depends on what I'm going through in my life at that particular moment. And it also depends on where I am. So I really try to be fully present. So I live, surrounded by forests in the state of Washington, and every day I go into the forest, I jog, and I sit and I meditate, and I love to feel the forest. But I also travel a great deal, and places like big cities, Istanbul or New York or Shanghai.
Yeah.
And when I'm in those places, I'll sit and just really try to feel my connection to the place that I'm at there. So it's, for me, it's a constant process of feeling connected and reconnected and being fully present wherever I am, and also with my emotions at the time. So I may be traveling and feeling very lonely. I may have a big speaking event coming up, maybe I'm a little nervous about it. To really go into that, to not try to fight it, but to recognize that our emotions are energy. Shapeshifting is all about directing and redirecting energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're angry, we're angry. But what do we do with that anger? I'm very, very angry at what's going on in the world, what corporations are doing, what my own government's doing in the world. And I used to use that anger in destructive or self-destructive ways, but now I write books with that. I go out and speak to tourists. I do this. I have a lot of fun with it. It's fun. I'm still angry.
Yeah.
But it's all about how we direct the energy. And so it's really important for us to be in touch with our feelings and understand where they are and what we want to do with them.
Yeah, it's the inner connection and the exterior connection because both have wisdom, right?
Right.
Yeah, I love it. So we've been talking to Llyn Roberts, who we're going to be talking to later. She's the author of this best-selling book, Shapeshifting into Higher Consciousness. In August 7th through it looks like the 14th, you're going to be at Omega Institute. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, on the weekend I'm doing based on the book Shapeshifting into Higher Consciousness, a whole weekend highly experiential program that John and Llyn used to do years ago. And then I'm following that with a 5-day immersion in shapeshifting consciousness. And it's a very powerful thing. It's very life-changing. We work with ceremonies and shamanic journeying processes, and it's a profound way to experience expanded consciousness.
Beautiful. Now, John, you actually have 2 events. One is in Zurich, Switzerland in May, and then you also have the Love Summit happening in the Northwest. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, that's cool. And people go to my website, johnperkins.org, and I'd love it for people to sign up for my newsletter, which comes out once a month. You have to actually put your email address in the little box.
Okay.
The Love Summit is something that's being put on by a nonprofit organization that I founded, one of them, Dream Change, which Lynn was the director of at one point.
Yeah.
We have a director now, an amazing young woman whose name is Samantha Thomas, who's organized this with Wyden Kennedy, which is the world's largest privately owned advertising agency. Dan Wyden, who's been to the Amazon with me twice, is co-hosting it with me.
Cool.
And Dan is actually the guy that came up with Just Do It for Nike. He's very close to Nike and other big corporations.
Yeah.
It's about bringing love into corporations, and I'd love to have more people come. I'd love to. It's really about bringing compassion and love into the corporate way of life, exactly what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, love it. June 13th in Portland, Oregon. Much for what you do for the world, too. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, listening audience, and thank you, Rebel. Have a great week, everybody. Remember, it's Earth Day, April 22nd. Okay. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.